The morning sun spread soft light across the floating towers of the alien city, reflecting off the crystalline spires and casting rainbows into the streets below. Princess Lyra walked slowly through the palace gardens, her mind restless. The events of the previous night weighed heavily on her. She had watched a human, Captain Jason Ward, coordinate with the palace defenses, outthinking the seasoned alien strategists. It had been unsettling. She could not deny it. Humans were supposed to be inferior, fragile, unprepared, and yet he had been clever, resourceful, and unshakable. Lyra paused near a glowing pool, its surface reflecting the twin moons that were still faint in the morning sky. She wondered what it would be like to live on a human planet, to see the universe from their eyes. Could a species so unpredictable really have value beyond what the council claimed? She shook her head, frustrated at the thought. She was supposed to be a princess, not a philosopher, and she was certainly not supposed to be fascinated by a human. Her thoughts were interrupted by the soft hum of the landing platform descending from the sky. Jason stepped out, his uniform still neat despite the previous night's chaos. He moved with calm purpose, scanning the gardens with quiet curiosity. Lyra did not hide when she saw him. She crossed her arms and faced him. "Good morning, Princess," Jason said, his voice calm but respectful. "I hope the city is recovering from last night's incident." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "Recovering? We barely had time to assess the damage. And you? You were part of the chaos." Jason tilted his head slightly, a faint smile on his lips. "I assisted, but we were successful, weren't we?" Lyra could not deny the truth. The intruders had been repelled. The city was safe. Yet she felt something more than gratitude. She felt challenge. Humans were supposed to follow rules. Yet, he acted in ways she could not predict. She did not yet trust this unpredictability. "Follow me," she said finally, turning sharply toward the palace's strategic chamber. She wanted to see how much he truly understood of their world, their technology, and their people. Jason followed, without hesitation, his steps careful but confident. Inside the chamber, vast holograms of the planet and surrounding systems hovered in mid-air. Lyra gestured toward them. "Tell me what you see." Jason studied the projections closely. He traced paths with his fingers, pausing to analyze patterns of energy, supply lines, and potential vulnerabilities. "Your defenses are strong, but rigid," he said finally. "You rely heavily on fixed positions. Mobility and adaptation are limited. If someone like last night's attackers returned with different strategies, your current plan might not hold." Lyra blinked. His observations were correct. The council often praised the security systems, but they were designed to maintain order, not adapt to chaos. "And what would you suggest?" she asked, curious despite herself. "Flexible squads," Jason explained. "Units that can move, react, and improvise. Technology is important, but the people operating it matter more. They must be trained to think for themselves, not just follow commands. I can help design a training program if you want." Lyra felt a flicker of admiration. He did not brag, he did not exaggerate. He simply analyzed and suggested solutions. But she could not allow herself to be impressed so easily. "I see. You think humans are capable of teaching aliens?" Jason smiled faintly. "I think humans are capable of learning from anyone, and helping others learn is part of that. Your people have knowledge I could never dream of. Together, we could combine strengths." Lyra frowned, unsure whether to be annoyed or intrigued. This human was certainly unusual. She had expected arrogance, clumsiness, or fear. Instead, he offered calm intelligence. She could not deny that it disturbed her. Their discussion was interrupted by an urgent message from the palace sensors. Another fleet was detected moving rapidly toward the city. This time it was not pirates but a band of rogue mercenaries known for their brutality. They were likely drawn by rumors of the human princess match, intending to test their luck against the alien world. Lyra's pulse quickened. She had expected threats, but facing them with Jason beside her made everything feel different. "We need a plan," she said, her voice firm. "And this time we cannot rely only on the guards. You will help." Jason nodded. "Of course. Let's assess their strengths and weaknesses first." The princess and the human moved through the city quickly, analyzing the situation. Lyra noticed that Jason's methods were unconventional. While the guards focused on defensive positions, he suggested creating mobile ambush points, using terrain creatively, and even employing the city's unusual gravity fields to their advantage. "You are unpredictable," Lyra said quietly, as they positioned forces. "And you are cautious," Jason replied. "Together, we might be a good balance." The battle began shortly after. Mercenary ships swooped down, firing plasma bursts and attempting to land troops in key districts. Lyra watched in awe as Jason coordinated with both the palace guards and volunteers, issuing commands and adjusting strategies on the fly. Every time a new threat emerged, he adapted instantly, turning disadvantages into advantages. Lyra found herself following his lead, surprised by how natural it felt. They moved through the city side by side, making split-second decisions that kept civilians safe and minimized damage to the infrastructure. The mercenaries, expecting an easy victory, were thrown off by the combined alien-human tactics. They had underestimated the human capacity for quick thinking. After several hours of intense fighting, the attackers were finally forced to retreat. Lyra stood on a balcony overlooking the city, breathing heavily. The streets were filled with minor damage, but the citizens were safe, thanks in large part to Jason's guidance. She looked at him, noticing the calm determination in his eyes. "You did well," she admitted, her voice softer than she intended. Jason nodded. "We did well. It was a team effort." Lyra shook her head, almost in disbelief. "You humans, you surprise me every time." Jason smiled faintly. "I hope it is a good surprise." Lyra's thoughts swirled as she walked back to the palace gardens. She could not deny that he had impressed her. His calmness, intelligence, and adaptability challenged everything she had believed about humans. Perhaps the council had been right in seeing potential beyond prejudice. Over the next few days, Lyra and Jason continued to spend time together, both under formal supervision and in quieter, private moments. They explored parts of the palace and the city she had never shown to anyone. Lyra began to notice small things about him: his curiosity, his willingness to listen, his respect for the alien culture, and his ability to remain calm under pressure. One evening, as they walked along a gravity-defying bridge that arched over the glowing gardens, Lyra stopped. "Why are you so calm all the time?" she asked. Jason looked at her, considering the question. "Calmness is a choice," he said simply. "Panic does not help anyone. Thinking clearly does. And when you face the unknown, preparation and observation are your best tools. I cannot change what is unpredictable, but I can choose how to respond to it." Lyra frowned, studying him closely. His words were simple, yet they carried weight. She had never met anyone like him, anyone who could face danger without fear, who could think clearly when everything around them was chaos. She did not know whether to admire him or resent him for being so composed. Days passed, and the city began to adjust to the presence of a human among them. The palace council watched cautiously, some openly skeptical of Jason's methods, others quietly impressed. Lyra's father, the king, remained distant but observant, noting how the humans seemed to integrate quickly and effectively. Lyra herself began to feel conflicted. She had spent her life believing that humans were unpredictable, fragile, and inferior. Yet here was one who had proven otherwise. She could not ignore the fact that he had saved lives, protected the city, and earned the respect of those who had doubted him. One night, as the moons rose over the city, Lyra found herself standing on her balcony alone. She thought about the human who had challenged her every assumption. He was clever, capable, and respectful. He was different, and for the first time she felt something unfamiliar, curiosity that went beyond duty or obligation. She did not yet know what it meant, but she felt it deeply. The world she had known, the assumptions she had held, and the prejudices she had believed were being questioned, and she knew deep down that her life was about to change in ways she could not yet imagine. Jason, meanwhile, quietly observed the city from his own vantage point. He did not yet fully understand the complexities of alien politics, but he understood people. And he had begun to see that Princess Lyra was not just a royal figure to be navigated carefully. She was intelligent, independent, and capable, and perhaps, just perhaps, their partnership could become something greater than either of them had expected. As the stars shimmered above and the city settled into an uneasy calm, both Lyra and Jason knew that the challenges ahead would test them further. But for the first time, Lyra allowed herself to wonder if humans, her people's supposed underdogs, could be more than what anyone had imagined. And somewhere deep inside, she felt a spark of anticipation, a sense that the next days would bring surprises she was not yet ready for. The sun was low in the sky, casting long shadows over the floating towers of the alien city. Princess Lyra moved quickly through the corridors of the palace, her mind racing with unease. Though the city had survived the previous attacks, the council had received troubling reports. Rogue mercenaries were regrouping on a nearby asteroid belt, gathering strength to launch another assault. Intelligence suggested that this time, their goal was not just testing defenses. They wanted control of the city itself. Lyra walked into the council chamber, her steps brisk and purposeful. The room was filled with advisors, strategists, and generals, each of them debating furiously about the best course of action. Holographic displays of the asteroid belt and approaching ships floated above the central table, casting a faint glow across the chamber. The council leader, an elder named Thalen, turned to her with a grave expression. "Princess Lyra, we need a plan, and quickly. The mercenaries are organized and dangerous. Any hesitation could cost lives." Lyra's eyes scanned the projections, her mind already working through possibilities. She could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on her. The previous night's victory had shown her that the human, Captain Jason Ward, could be valuable in ways the council had not anticipated. Yet she was still unsure how much to trust him. "Jason should accompany us," she said firmly. "His perspective, it helped us last time. He is unpredictable, yes, but in ways that might benefit us." A few council members whispered doubts. Humans were still largely untested in their society. Some considered them fragile, others reckless. But Thalen nodded slowly. "If you believe his presence will help, then he shall join us, but be cautious, Princess. The humans' methods may not align with our own." Lyra's lips tightened. She was aware of the risks, but she also knew that conventional thinking had limits. Jason's unpredictability had saved lives before. Perhaps it could do so again. Jason awaited her at the landing platform. As Lyra approached, he gave a polite nod. "I heard we have a mission," he said, his voice calm and steady. Lyra folded her arms. "We do. A group of mercenaries is amassing on an asteroid belt nearby. They plan to attack our city again. We need to stop them before they reach the planet." Jason studied her carefully. "And you want me to come along because your tactics are different from the council's," Lyra said bluntly. "You adapt. You think. And right now, we need both." Jason's expression softened. "Understood. Then let's prepare." They boarded a sleek shuttle designed for rapid travel and combat maneuvers. Lyra settled into the pilot's observation seat, her eyes scanning the asteroid field below. Jason moved beside her, checking the ship's tactical displays and sensors. The journey was tense, the silence filled with unspoken anticipation. "Do you often go on missions like this?" Lyra asked cautiously. Jason glanced at her. "On Earth, I've had some experience with dangerous operations, yes, but every situation is unique. What matters is observation, planning, and quick thinking." Lyra studied him closely. She was still learning to trust him, still measuring his words against her own expectations, but she could not deny that his confidence and composure were reassuring in a way she had not expected. As the shuttle approached the asteroid belt, sensors picked up a large cluster of ships. The mercenaries were heavily armed and clearly expecting a fight. Lyra's stomach tightened. This was more dangerous than any situation she had faced before. Jason tapped the controls, bringing up a holographic map of the fleet. They are expecting a direct approach. If we split into smaller units and use the asteroids for cover, we can outmaneuver them. They rely on numbers and firepower, but mobility and unpredictability work in our favor. Lyra nodded slowly. All right. We'll try your way. The shuttle glided through the asteroid belt, weaving between massive rocks and debris. The mercenary ships opened fire, plasma blasts lighting up the darkness. Lyra felt a surge of adrenaline, but she followed Jason's lead, trusting his guidance even when her instincts screamed caution. Jason directed their movements with precision. He calculated trajectories, advised evasive maneuvers, and predicted enemy behavior. Lyra found herself impressed by his ability to adapt instantly to changing conditions. Every time the mercenaries attempted a new strategy, he had an answer, a counter-move or a clever diversion. At one point, a large mercenary cruiser tried to trap them between two asteroids. Lyra held her breath as Jason issued commands. Use the gravity field from the nearby rock. Push them off course. Lyra adjusted the ship's thrusters as instructed. The cruiser collided with the asteroid, spinning out of control, while their shuttle slipped past safely. Lyra let out a quiet laugh, feeling the thrill of the maneuver. She had to admit, humans were capable of surprising tactics. After hours of careful navigation and tactical skirmishes, they reached the core of the mercenary fleet. Jason suggested a bold move. We need to disable their command ship. If we can do that, the rest will fall into disarray. Lyra hesitated. Attacking the command ship directly was risky, but she trusted Jason. All right, lead the way. They darted through the fleet, using asteroids and debris as cover. Plasma fire zipped past them, and alarms blared. Lyra's hands moved with precision, following Jason's instructions. When they reached the command ship, he guided them in placing small explosive charges at critical points. As they prepared to leave, one of the mercenary fighters detected their presence. A brief chase ensued, the enemy ship firing relentlessly. Lyra felt her heart pound, but she focused on the task. Jason's calm voice directed her every step. Keep moving, don't stop, use the asteroids, trust your instincts. The shuttle twisted and turned, avoiding fire and debris. Finally, they broke free from the immediate threat. Lyra exhaled, deeply, her pulse still racing. She glanced at Jason, realizing that without him they might have been captured, or worse. The explosives detonated on the command ship, creating a chain reaction that disabled the fleet. The remaining mercenaries scattered, retreating into the asteroid field. Lyra felt a mixture of relief and amazement. The mission had succeeded. As they returned to the city, the shuttle glided smoothly through the atmosphere. Lyra stared out the window at the glowing towers below. She had faced danger and survived, but more importantly, she had seen the value of partnership between humans and aliens. Jason had not just been helpful, he had been essential. In the days that followed, Lyra and Jason were celebrated by the palace and citizens alike. The council could not deny the humans' contributions. Even the skeptical generals admitted that his tactics had saved countless lives. Lyra, however, remained cautious. She was beginning to see the human in a new light, but she was not yet ready to admit how much she was beginning to trust and perhaps even admire him. One evening, as they walked through the palace gardens, Lyra stopped by a glowing fountain. Water hovered in suspended spheres, rotating slowly as if obeying no laws of gravity. She watched it in silence, thinking about the recent mission. Jason joined her, standing quietly beside her. You handled yourself well, he said. Lyra looked at him, surprised by the compliment. I had a good teacher, she said, her voice quiet. Jason smiled faintly. You were a quick learner. That helped more than anything. Lyra felt a strange warmth at his words. She had always believed she was strong on her own, capable without anyone's help. But now, Standing beside this human who had risked everything to protect her world, she realized that strength could also come from trust and partnership. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alert from the palace sensors. A smaller fleet, likely scouts from other mercenary groups, had been detected approaching. Lyra's heart tightened. The danger was far from over. Jason placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We've handled worse together. We'll handle this too." Lyra nodded, feeling a surge of confidence. She did not yet fully understand humans, and she still had reservations about their unpredictability, but she could not deny the truth she had seen with her own eyes. Humans were capable, resourceful, and courageous in ways that even the most advanced alien civilizations sometimes overlooked. Over the next several days, Lyra and Jason worked together to strengthen the city's defenses. They trained squads, devised new strategies, and reinforced the walls and energy shields. Lyra observed how the humans' adaptability complemented the aliens' precision, creating a combination stronger than either could achieve alone. During a quiet moment, Lyra found herself reflecting on her previous assumptions. She had expected the human to be clumsy, unreliable, or inferior. Instead, he had proven to be intelligent, dependable, and courageous. Her feelings were complicated. Part respect, part curiosity, and perhaps something more she was not yet ready to name. Jason, for his part, continued to study Lyra as well. He noticed her intelligence, her determination, and her willingness to challenge assumptions, even those of the council. He admired her strength, and he respected her independence. Unlike anyone he had met before, she did not blindly follow orders or tradition. She questioned, observed, and made her own decisions. As night fell once more, Lyra and Jason stood together on a balcony overlooking the city. The twin moons glowed softly above, reflecting in the floating pools and crystal towers. Lyra's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. She had faced danger, witnessed human ingenuity firsthand, and discovered that the palace was quieter than usual. The corridors bathed in the soft glow of alien light. Princess Lyra walked slowly, her mind heavy with questions she had been avoiding. Since the recent battles with the mercenaries, her world had shifted. Humans, the species she had once dismissed as fragile and unpredictable, had proven to be clever, adaptable, and courageous. And yet, there remained a larger truth she had not yet confronted, one that involved her family, her people, and the reason behind her arranged marriage to Jason. She entered her mother's chamber where Queen Solara was reviewing diplomatic reports. The queen looked up, her expression calm, almost serene. "You've been quiet, Lyra," she observed. "Something troubles you." Lyra paced in front of her mother, finally letting out a long breath. "I know why we fought the mercenaries, why I needed Jason's help, but I still do not understand why me. Why must I marry him? Why a human?" Queen Solara gestured for Lyra to sit. "You are strong, independent, and intelligent. These qualities make you the ideal bridge between our world and his. But the decision goes beyond strength or independence. It goes to the heart of our survival." Lyra frowned. "Survival? Mom, I fought. I survived. I protected the city. I am a capable princess. Why must this survival involve a human marriage?" The queen's eyes softened. "Lyra, I understand your resistance, I truly do. But humans are more than what you have seen or read in reports. Their adaptability, ingenuity, and resilience can complement our strengths in ways we cannot achieve alone. Your union with Jason is meant to solidify an alliance that will protect our civilization from threats we cannot face by ourselves." Lyra's mind whirled. She had suspected there were larger reasons, but hearing them explained made the weight of her duty clear. This was no longer just about her personal discomfort or rebellion. It was about the fate of her world. "Are you saying that my feelings, my choices—" Lyra paused, struggling with the words. "Do not matter?" "They matter, Lyra," her mother said gently. "But they are balanced against the needs of our people. You are not giving up your feelings entirely. you are learning to consider the greater picture. And perhaps in the process, you may discover that this human is not what you assumed. Lyra clenched her fists, conflicted. She had spent her life believing she would lead her people with her own decisions. And now, her path was intertwined with a human she barely knew. The thought was infuriating and yet strangely compelling. Later that day, Jason waited in the palace gardens, his posture calm yet alert. Lyra approached, her emotions a mixture of frustration and curiosity. "We need to talk," she said. Jason tilted his head slightly. "I am listening." Lyra's hands fidgeted with the hem of her gown. "I have learned why the council arranged this marriage. I understand the political reasons, the survival reasons, but I still do not know if I can accept it. I do not know if I can accept you." Jason's eyes softened. "I cannot force you to accept me, nor do I expect it. But I can promise you this. I respect you, your people, and your world. I will not act without your consent or your understanding. We can face these challenges together, but only if we trust each other." Lyra stared at him, searching for signs of deception, arrogance, or weakness. She found none. Instead, she saw calm confidence, respect, and perhaps a quiet patience that surprised her. "You make it sound so easy," she said, though her tone lacked its usual sharpness. "You talk about trust as if it is simple, but it is not simple. My life, my people, everything is at stake. And yet, you survived, you helped, you adapted. How do I ignore that?" Jason took a step closer. "You don't ignore it. You acknowledge it. You decide how it matters to you, not to anyone else, and I will follow your lead." Lyra felt a small flicker of understanding. Perhaps trust was not about surrendering control, but about recognizing competence and intention. And Jason had proven both in ways she could not deny. The next day, Lyra and Jason were summoned to the council chambers. The air was tense, filled, with advisors and generals who regarded them with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. Holograms of distant planets, fleets, and strategic maps floated above the central table. Thalen, the council elder, addressed them first. "Princess Lyra, Captain Jason Ward, we have received intelligence of another threat. A rival species from a nearby system has expressed hostility toward humans and their allies. They may attempt to strike at our city to prevent this alliance." Lyra's heart tightened. The stakes were higher than ever. She turned to Jason, whose calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the rising tension. "We must act quickly," he said. "Waiting will allow them to gather strength and exploit weaknesses. We need a plan that combines your people's precision with human adaptability." Lyra nodded. "We'll do it together." For the following hours, they worked side by side, analyzing data, running simulations, and planning strategies. Lyra noticed how Jason questioned assumptions and proposed alternatives that the council had not considered. She found herself respecting his insights more and more, realizing that humans' unconventional thinking could be a powerful asset. When the plans were finalized, Lyra addressed the council. "We have a strategy that relies on cooperation, mobility, and adaptability. It will require trust from all involved, including humans, and I believe we can succeed if we work together." Some council members nodded reluctantly, while others exchanged skeptical glances. Thalen spoke last. "Princess Lyra, you have chosen an unorthodox approach, but history favors the bold. Proceed, and may your judgment prove wise." The next few days were filled with preparation. Lyra and Jason worked tirelessly, coordinating defenses, training units, and ensuring that communication lines were secure. The human's insights continued to prove invaluable. He suggested contingency plans, alternative routes, and flexible formations that allowed the alien forces to react quickly to unforeseen circumstances. One evening, as they reviewed strategies in the quiet of the palace gardens, Lyra asked, "Do you ever fear failure, Jason?" Jason considered the question. "Of course, fear is natural, but fear alone does not prevent failure. Preparation, adaptability, and trust in your allies do. I do not ignore the possibility of failure. I plan for it, and I accept it as part of the process. Lyra nodded slowly. His words resonated with her. She had spent so long believing that control and certainty were the only paths to success, but she was beginning to see that adaptability, intelligence, and cooperation could achieve what rigid planning alone could not. The following day, a warning came from the outer systems. Enemy ships were detected moving toward the city. Lyra and Jason assembled a small task force to intercept them before they could reach the planet. As they approached the hostile fleet, Lyra felt her pulse quicken. The stakes were immense, and the success of their strategy rested on their ability to work together. Jason coordinated the squadron with calm precision, issuing commands that were unorthodox, yet effective. Lyra followed his lead, trusting his instincts even when they diverged from her training. The battle was intense. Plasma fire streaked across the void, and ships maneuvered around asteroids and debris. Lyra found herself relying on Jason's judgment more than ever. His adaptability and quick thinking turned potential disaster into tactical advantage. Enemy ships were caught off guard by the combination of alien precision and human ingenuity, and one by one, they were forced to retreat. When the battle ended, Lyra hovered above the battlefield, watching the remnants of the enemy fleet scatter into the void. She felt a mixture of relief, pride, and admiration. Jason had not only helped save the city, but had done so in a way that respected her people's strengths while introducing new, effective methods. As they returned to the palace, Lyra reflected on the lessons of the past days. She had begun to see humans not as fragile or reckless, but as capable, resilient, and valuable partners. Jason had earned her trust, not by words alone, but through action, courage, and intelligence. That evening, as they walked through the palace gardens, Lyra spoke quietly. I understand now why the council arranged this marriage. It is not just about politics or survival. It is about recognizing the strengths that each of our species brings to the table, and perhaps it is also about learning to trust. Jason looked at her with a gentle smile. Trust is not given lightly, Princess. It is earned, and it is mutual. I respect your judgment, your strength, and your choices. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Lyra felt a warmth in her chest, a feeling she had not expected. She had spent her life resisting the idea of marrying a human, believing it to be an absurdity. But now, she was beginning to see that perhaps this union could be more than a political arrangement. Perhaps it could be a partnership built on respect, trust, and shared purpose. As night fell over the glowing towers and floating gardens, Lyra gazed at the stars above. The future remained uncertain, filled with challenges, threats, and unknown possibilities. But for the first time, she felt a sense of cautious hope. With Jason by her side, she believed they could face whatever the universe had in store for them. And somewhere deep within, she realized that her life, her choices, and her future were no longer hers alone. They were shared, intertwined with a human she had once dismissed but now saw as a partner, a comrade, and perhaps, in time, something more. The palace was alive with activity as Princess Lyra walked through the halls. The city had recovered from the recent threats, and for the first time in weeks, there was a sense of calm in the air. Yet Lyra's heart was heavy with decisions. She had learned much about humans, about Jason, and about herself. The arranged marriage, which had once seemed unbearable, now felt like an opportunity she could not ignore. Jason waited for her in the palace gardens, standing among the glowing flora that shimmered in the soft light of the twin moons. He greeted her with a calm nod, his expression patient and understanding. Lyra's pulse quickened, not with fear but with anticipation. I wanted to speak with you before the council meeting, Lyra said quietly. There are decisions to be made, and I need to understand my own feelings first. Jason's eyes softened. Take your time. I'm here and I will respect whatever you decide. Lyra drew a deep breath, letting her gaze sweep over the floating gardens. She remembered the battles, the moments of fear, the times when she had been forced to rely on him. She remembered his calm, his intelligence, and the courage he had displayed in the face of danger. For the first time, she realized that he was more than a human. He was a partner, someone she could trust completely. I understand now why the marriage was arranged, she began, her voice steady. It is not just for politics or survival or alliances. It is about recognizing the strengths that our species bring to one another. And I trust you. I trust your judgment, your courage, and your heart. Jason stepped closer, a faint smile on his lips. Lyra, he began softly. She interrupted, her own smile breaking through. And I accept it. I accept the marriage. Not because I am forced, but because I see what we can accomplish together. And because I want to. Jason's expression softened completely, and he reached for her hand. Then we face the future together. Whatever challenges come, we will face them side by side. The council meeting was held later that day in the Grand Chamber, a vast space filled with advisors, generals, and officials from both the alien world and the human delegation. Holographic displays of distant systems, fleets, and trade routes shimmered in midair. Lyra entered confidently, Jason beside her, his presence steady and reassuring. She addressed the council first. The threats we have faced have shown us that cooperation between our species is not optional. It is essential. Together, we have defended our city, protected our people, and shown that humans are capable allies. I am ready to formalize this alliance, not only politically, but personally. A murmur ran through the chamber. Some advisors exchanged glances, while others nodded slowly, recognizing the wisdom in her words. Jason stepped forward. I stand with Princess Lyra. I respect her world, her people, and her choices. Together, we will strengthen our alliance, and together, we will face whatever threats come our way. The council leader, Thalen, regarded them with a mixture of surprise and approval. Princess Lyra, Captain Jason Ward, your partnership has proven its worth. The council recognizes your decision, and we support the formalization of this union. May it bring strength, peace, and prosperity to our people. Lyra and Jason exchanged a glance, a silent understanding passing between them. This was not just a political victory. It was a personal one, a confirmation that trust, respect, and courage could bridge the gap between species. In the days that followed, preparations for the formal ceremony began. The palace was decorated with bioluminescent flowers, floating lanterns, and shimmering crystal tapestries. Citizens from across the city gathered to witness the historic event, eager to celebrate the union that had already proven to be a symbol of hope and strength. Lyra spent time with her family, reflecting on her journey. She realized that her anger, frustration, and fear had been natural responses to the unknown. But through experience, observation, and trust, she had discovered the truth. Humans were capable, intelligent, and worthy partners. Jason had not only helped her see that truth, but he had also earned her respect and admiration through action, courage, and integrity. The day of the ceremony arrived. The palace courtyard was filled with citizens, diplomats, and representatives from distant systems. The twin suns shone brightly, reflecting off the crystal towers and casting rainbows across the crowd. Lyra walked gracefully down the aisle, her heart steady despite the enormity of the moment. Jason awaited her, calm and composed, a symbol of the unity they were about to formalize. As the ceremony began, Lyra spoke clearly, her voice carrying across the courtyard. Today we unite not only as individuals but as representatives of our peoples. This union is a promise of cooperation, of trust, and of shared purpose. Together, we will face the challenges of the universe, and together we will protect our worlds. Jason stepped forward, his voice equally strong. I vow to stand beside Princess Lyra, to respect her choices, and to act with honor, courage, and loyalty. Together, we will demonstrate that trust and partnership between our species can create a future brighter than either could achieve alone. The council elders and citizens cheered, a wave of approval and celebration sweeping through the courtyard. Lyra felt a sense of fulfillment she had never known. She had faced her fears, embraced the unknown, and discovered a partnership that transcended species, politics, and expectation. After the ceremony, Lyra and Jason walked through the gardens together, their hands intertwined. The air was filled with the soft hum of floating lanterns and the glow of bioluminescent plants. They did not need to speak. The silence was comfortable, filled with mutual understanding and trust. "You know," Lyra said quietly, "I never thought I would see a day when I could trust a human completely. And yet, here we are." Jason smiled. "Humans are capable of much more than assumptions allow, and I am grateful to have earned your trust." Lyra's eyes softened. "You did more than earn it. You changed the way I see the world, and myself." Jason squeezed her hand gently. "Then we face the future together, as partners, allies, and perhaps more than that." Lyra laughed softly. "Perhaps, yes. But let us first focus on protecting our people. Everything else will come in time." In the days and months that followed, Lyra and Jason worked side by side, strengthening alliances, training forces, and preparing for future threats. The city thrived under their combined leadership, blending alien precision with human adaptability. Citizens saw the union not as a forced arrangement, but as a symbol of hope, courage, and cooperation. Lyra reflected on her journey. She had begun with anger, frustration, and disbelief. She had resisted the idea of marrying a human, believing it impossible, absurd, and undesirable. But through experience, observation, and trust, she had discovered the truth. Humans were capable of resilience, intelligence, and courage. Jason had proven it not only through words but through action, patience, and integrity. As the twin moons rose over the city one evening, Lyra stood on her balcony, Jason beside her. The stars shimmered above, and the glowing towers of the city reflected in the water below. She felt a sense of peace and fulfillment she had never known. The future was uncertain, filled with challenges, threats, and unknown possibilities. But for the first time, she felt confident that together, they could face anything. Jason's voice broke the silence. "Lyra, no matter what comes, we face it together. We are stronger together than apart." Lyra smiled, her heart full. "Yes, Jason. Together." And somewhere deep inside, she knew that this was only the beginning. Together, they would not only protect their world, they would redefine what it meant to unite two species, two peoples, and two hearts. The city below was alive with celebration, lights, and laughter. The citizens had witnessed not only a union of two people, but a union of hope, courage, and the limitless potential of cooperation. Lyra and Jason looked out over the city, understanding that their story was more than personal. It was a symbol for the universe. Together they had faced danger, uncertainty, and prejudice. Together they had built trust, respect, and admiration, and together they would face whatever the future held, hand in hand, hearts aligned, and eyes fixed on the stars. Lyra felt a sense of certainty she had never known. She had once resisted, doubted, and feared, but now she embraced the truth. Humans were capable of greatness, and one human in particular had proven that partnership, courage, and love could overcome every obstacle. Jason squeezed her hand again, and she smiled at him, finally free of doubt, fully trusting, and ready for whatever the universe might bring. The future awaited, vast and unknown. But together, Princess Lyra and Captain Jason Ward were ready. And for the first time in her life, Lyra knew she was not just a princess of her people. She was a partner, a leader, and a force that could shape the stars themselves. Lysera sat on the wide, crystal-like balcony of the Veeri Palace, her long silver hair glinting in the light of the twin suns. The wind of her world carried a strange warmth, almost gentle, but it could not soothe her troubled heart. She could see the sprawling city below, full of shining towers and flying vehicles, but all of it felt distant to her. Today she had learned something that filled her with dread. A human was coming to the palace not as a visitor, but as her future husband. Her father, the Emperor Veor, had summoned her in the early morning hours and informed her of the arrangement. Lysera had heard stories about humans before, but nothing could have prepared her for the reality. The stories spoke of humans as strong, unpredictable, and above all, ruthless. They were said to be warriors who did not fear death and whose weapons could destroy fleets of ships with a single strike. And now, one of these humans would not only enter her life but demand her hand in marriage. "No way," she whispered, to herself, her fingers gripping the cold edge of the balcony. Not that human, not Kale. The name sounded simple to her alien ears, but it carried weight. Kale, a human warrior from the far-off planets of the Sol system, was known across multiple star systems for his strength and unyielding nature. He had led countless campaigns against alien forces, and his reputation as a fearless fighter had reached even the ears of the Emperor. The thought of spending her life beside someone so fierce made her stomach twist with anxiety. Lysera had always lived a life of privilege, surrounded by advisors, servants, and strict rules. She knew her position came with responsibility, but she had never imagined her life would include being forced to marry someone she did not know, and feared. She tried to picture Kale. She imagined a giant human, muscles rippling under armor, his eyes cold and unfeeling. In her mind, he would not understand her world, her customs, or the careful etiquette that governed her life. The idea alone made her shiver. Yet there was another part of her that was curious. What kind of being was Kale really? The holovids her father had shown her were filled with his battles, showing him taking down enemies with precision and strength. There was no hesitation in his movements, no mercy in his strikes. But perhaps, Lysera thought, the stories did not tell everything. Perhaps humans had more than just raw power. Perhaps they had intelligence, honor, or something else entirely that the aliens had not understood. Her reverie was broken by the sound of her personal attendant, Mara, approaching. "Princess, are you ready for the council briefing?" Mara asked, her voice soft but firm. She had served Lysera for years and knew well when the princess was troubled. Lysera shook her head. "Not ready, Mara. I cannot focus on the council. Today. My mind, it is elsewhere." Mara nodded, understanding more than Lysera expected. "I know. I hear whispers in the palace, Princess. The human's arrival is near. The Emperor is serious about this marriage. You must decide how you will face him." Lysera sighed. "Decide? How can I decide? I don't even know him, and I have heard what humans can do. They are dangerous." Mara reached out and gently took Lysera's hand. "Perhaps, Princess, you are judging him too quickly. Humans are not all the same. You must meet him before forming your opinion." Lysera pulled her hand away gently, her fear mixing with a strange sense of frustration. Meeting him will not help. What if he is exactly as the stories say? Ruthless, cold, unstoppable. I cannot face that. Mara gave her a long, patient look. "Fear is natural, Princess, but courage is what makes leaders and warriors alike. Perhaps Kale is not your enemy, but someone who could teach you much." Lysera did not answer. She gazed out at the city again, trying to imagine what life would be like if she could refuse. But the laws of the Veeri Empire were clear. The Emperor's word was law, and political marriages were necessary to maintain peace and alliances. Refusal was not an option. She was trapped, and the thought made her heart pound faster. The palace gates opened with a distant rumble, and a small signal reached her balcony. A fleet of human starships had entered Veeri space. The humans were coming. Kyle was coming. Lysera's mind raced with the stories she had heard from other planets. Humans could survive in harsh environments, adapt quickly to unknown situations, and fight like nothing else. They were unpredictable. In battles, no one could anticipate their moves. They could lead armies, pilot ships, and fight multiple enemies at once. And Kale was said to be the best among them, a human who had never failed in combat. Her fingers trembled as she gripped the balcony railing. She had always prided herself on her intelligence and skills in diplomacy, but facing a human warrior seemed impossible. She imagined him walking through the palace halls, towering over everyone, his gaze piercing and cold. How could she ever speak to him, laugh with him, or, heaven forbid, learn to trust him? The palace alarms rang, signaling the human fleet's landing. Lysera's heart skipped a beat. She watched from the balcony as the massive ships descended, their hulls glinting under the twin suns. The humans moved with precision and confidence, their appearance alone commanding respect and fear. Kyle's ship landed gracefully in the central courtyard, and the doors opened. Soldiers in human armor marched down the ramps, disciplined and organized. And then he appeared, Kale himself. Lysera's breath caught. He was taller than she expected, his body strong but not monstrous. His eyes were sharp, scanning the surroundings, with awareness. His expression was calm, almost neutral, but there was a presence about him that made the air around him feel charged. He was not smiling, but he did not look cruel. He looked determined. For a moment, Lysera wanted to hide. She had no idea how to approach this human, how to meet the warrior who could destroy worlds yet now stood in her palace, waiting to meet her as a partner. She felt fear, but beneath it something else, curiosity. Her father appeared behind her, tall and imposing. "Princess Lysera," he said firmly. "Kyle has come as agreed. You will meet him." Lysera swallowed hard. "Father, must I am not ready." The Emperor's eyes softened for a moment, but his voice remained steady. "This is not about readiness, Lysera. This is about duty. Humans and Vayari must work together for peace. You are part of that future. Kale is part of it as well. You will meet him and you will show respect. That is all I ask for now." Lysera nodded reluctantly, her stomach twisting. She turned away from the balcony and began walking toward the grand hall where Kyle awaited. Every step felt heavy. Her mind raced with fears, questions, and stories she had heard about humans. How could one being be so strong, so relentless, and yet still live among others with honor? Could she ever trust someone like that? The grand hall was vast, with ceilings that shimmered like liquid crystal. Kyle stood near the center, his presence commanding even in silence. Guards and servants stood at attention, but all eyes were on the human warrior and the approaching princess. Lysera stopped at the entrance, her heart pounding. Kale turned his gaze toward her, and for a moment, it felt as if he could see into her thoughts. He bowed slightly, a gesture of respect that surprised her. Despite his reputation, he understood the customs of her people. "You are Princess Lysera," he said, his voice calm and even. "I have heard of you." Lysera hesitated, then nodded. "I am, and you are Kale." "Yes," he replied. "I have come as requested. I hope we can learn to work together." Lysera was taken aback. This was not the ruthless human she had imagined. His words were polite, his tone neutral, and yet there was an unmistakable strength in his presence. She wanted to step back, to retreat to the safety of her chambers, but she stayed rooted in place, studying him carefully. Kale noticed her hesitation and offered a small, understanding smile. "I understand that this is unusual for you. It is unusual for me as well. But perhaps we can find a way to make this easier." Lysera's fear did not vanish, but it shifted slightly. Perhaps humans were not as simple as the stories said. Perhaps Kale was not just a warrior, but someone with thought, respect, and reason. The Emperor watched silently, pleased that his daughter had not fled. "Take your time," he said. "Observe, speak, and understand. This is the first step of many." Lysera nodded again, her mind racing with possibilities. She did not know what the future held, but for the first time, she realized that fear might not be the only force guiding her. Curiosity, caution, and a spark of something unfamiliar were starting to emerge. As she left the grand hall, Cale's calm presence lingered in her thoughts. She could not deny the power he radiated, nor the intelligence behind his eyes. The path ahead was uncertain, full of challenges and dangers, but for the first time Lizera felt a small flicker of hope. Perhaps humans were more than the legends, and perhaps this human warrior, Cale, was more than she had feared. And as the twin suns began to set over the palace city, casting long shadows across the shimmering towers, Lysera realized that her life was about to change forever. Not just because she was meeting a human, but because that human might challenge everything she had ever believed about strength, fear, and courage.